I'm here with Michelle Rempel. She's the Conservative Immigration Critic.
Yes.
Yes. You talked about deficit spending. You said we lost the war on deficit spending. What does that mean, and how do we try to win it again?
Well, I think there's been a lot of media narrative as well as narrative in the Canadian public that somehow deficit spending is something that should be embraced and lauded as a way for Canada to move forward. And I think Canadians really have to have a strong, long think about that. It shouldn't be something that we aim for. You know, in times of severe economic downturn, sometimes governments have to look at that as a way to, stimulate the economy, but we have to be very, very careful with that. We shouldn't be looking at deficit spending as a way to pay for things that we could be paying for within the context of existing tax revenue. I think that we should always be looking at ways to reduce taxes, because we've seen that when taxation revenue it actually increases when we're lowering tax rates, right? Because we see the economy being spurred that way. It concerns me that sometimes we're seeing now governments look at deficit spending as a way to cover basic operating costs, rather than asking the question, how can government be run more effectively and more efficiently? And I think sometimes we actually now get a little bit of pushback for asking that basic question. So it's a concerning trend that I think we should be looking at as we move forward and holding the government to account.
How do we convince millennials that deficit spending is bad?
Well, I think that's a really good question. It's one for the Conservative movement to ask itself. We've seen, there's a lot of people who sort of understand credit as something that's part of life, right? Like borrowing is something that it's just part of the way that we do things. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the best way to do things. And I think, we need to have a conversation with all of Canada in terms of why government deficit spending maybe isn't the best thing for the economy, but also, there's been a lot of things that our government has done, our previous government did, in terms of even just basic things like financial literacy, right? Like understanding how, mounting credit bills can affect someone's life. So I think there's a big conversation to be had there, and one that I think all of us should be part of, to see Canada be a long-term, healthy and prosperous place to be.
Great. Thanks for talking to us.